So it's hard to believe that we have been talking about ESSER for 18 months now. And as Mr. Addison just shared, ESSER 1 is coming to a close. We are in the process of wrapping up all of the reports and reconciling our expenses there for ESSER 1, moving into ESSER 2. And we have certainly already begun to utilize the funds in ESSER 2. ARP ESSER or ESSER 3, just as a reminder, those funds are available to the district until September of 2024. And I always appreciate the call out that in ESSER 3 or ARP ESSER, at least 20% must be used for learning recovery activities. Now, we will certainly far exceed that 20%, but as I heard you mention just a couple of minutes ago, sometimes folks wonder why funds are being used in a certain way, and just want to make sure that we call out publicly and each time we talk that 20% is required to be used to address learning recovery. Next, please. So not completely aligned with those buckets of ESSER, but to, again, give a general overview. So for ESSER 1, our focus was really on health and safety. And you can see some of the major expenditures that came out of ESSER 1. In ESSER 2, we began to return to school. Thankfully, we're in school in person this year and at this time. But ESSER 2 is largely related to our strategies to respond to returning to in-person instruction. We did also, as you've already heard, begin to address HVAC. In ESSER 3, we have both those strategies that focus on student supports, and then also what I phrase as phase 4. I asked that question about when will it end, really as a reminder that there are still a great number of unknowns when it comes to the environment and around the world at this time. And so because of that, it is essential that we maintain some level of flexibility in our spending and planning. Certainly, we will keep in accordance with allowable uses, but certainly if we had set all of these plans in March of 2020, we might have determined a different set of plans than we have now. So next, please. In terms of our categories of spending, these are the 4 major categories. You can see that we are addressing health and safety, meeting student academic needs. That mental health bullet, again, just a reminder, those are services that are provided by a licensed medical professional. And so most of the time when we talk about meeting social emotional needs or general needs of students, those actually fall in bucket 2. The bullet 3 is much more restrictive. And then we do have some operational continuity plans and expenses. Next, please. Thank you. So I mentioned last quarter, but would just call out again that with ARP ESSER, ESSER 3, there is a specific requirement that we seek public comment on needs and on our plans. And so since May of 2021, we have had a survey link on the district website. The URL is listed there. And we do collect feedback. We review that feedback, and you will continue to receive updates at these quarterly meetings about what the public is saying and mentioning on that site. I can assure you that the overwhelming amount of public input in the last month has been around the conditions of buildings, health and safety, appreciation for the HVAC projects that are completed or underway, but certainly drawing lots of attention to needs in buildings, both related to HVAC, but also, as Mr. Addison mentioned, and Alex Trevino as well, other needs in our classrooms, addressing the overall learning conditions and environments in our classrooms. So encourage everyone to take a look at the district ESSER page. It gives ongoing updates about expenditures, plans, and a link to give us feedback on how you think we're doing. Next, please. So in the executive summary, you do see the actual dollars expended, planned for, within each of the categories. I will let you know that these areas that are here on the screen are of specific interest to those at the federal level who first approved the funds, and at the state level as well. They're going to be very interested in what we are doing around summer programs, after school, and the others that you see there on the screen. So when you see, and this relates to your previous comment in the earlier report, when you see dollars available, it does not mean that we just have cash or that we are, I think you used the word flush. The dollars are available. However, we do have specific plans for those funds. And I want to mention just a few of those. So certainly the HVAC work has been spoken of a great deal, but we are also taking additional measures to address health and safety and overall building improvements where allowable across buildings in the district. We are investing in 2 additional health clinics, one to be located at Fort Hays and one to serve the Columbus Global community. We are investing ESSER dollars to complete that work. The state did provide some early funding for that work, but certainly the cost, the construction costs, the workforce costs, supply chain issues have caused the cost of those facilities to increase, and so we will add ESSER dollars to complete that work. We have a school counselor full-time in every Columbus City school. That was not the case prior to the pandemic. And certainly the pandemic has brought to light and exacerbated the needs of our students. Prior to the pandemic, most elementary schools shared a counselor. The counselor would go from building to building and maybe be at the elementary 1 or 2 days a week. The work that is now being done to address the needs of students in every school as a result of having that full-time school counselor, we are seeing those results already. We are investing in additional school social workers and school psychologists as well. Technology. We have a Chromebook inventory that's underway right now, and cases are being added to the Chromebooks. I hear from, you're nodding your head, we're glad. We're glad to be putting cases on the Chromebooks. We believe that that will extend the life of the Chromebook. But we are also finding through that inventory that if a device is broken or needs to be updated, that technicians are available to make those repairs. So cases, it's a big one. We have over 8,000 hotspots in use, and we continue to need additional funds to supplement the hotspots that we have available to ensure that the student not only has the device, but has access to the Wi-Fi. And so that continues to be a large investment. Additionally, we are adding other classroom technology. We have recently added clear touch screens in a number of our classrooms in looking at the impact that that makes. We are almost ready to talk in detail about a comprehensive literacy strategy that aligns to the board goals and guardrails, and that will include community-based extended day intervention. So when we talk about planned for, that's in the plan, Additionally, we know that that full-time school counselor is making an impact, but we know that we need a district-wide SEL strategy or set of strategies, and we will be investing ESSER dollars to make sure that we not only land on the right strategy, but that we fund the implementation of that strategy. Summer programs. We have certainly offered summer programs. We will be expanding those over the next 2 summers to ensure that we address not only learning loss, but also enrichment to ensure that we keep students engaged. I call out 2 specific partners, Communities in Schools and City Year. Those programs in the schools where they serve are being supplemented for the next 2 years with ESSER dollars. As all organizations, they have seen increased personnel costs as well. We believe in that investment and are using ESSER to supplement. 2 other pieces. We are partnering with local universities to help us research the impact of our investments and to make independent recommendations as far as work that we would carry forward using ESSER dollars. And in addition, we know that our personnel costs continue to increase, in where allowable, we are providing some retention and recruitment funds to support. So next slide, please. I had mentioned previously, but certainly encourage you and those listening to this presentation to take a look at the ESSER webpage on the district website. Again, there's a link there. It takes you right to the live page that does go into additional information about our strategies, and we update it regularly so that the public can view the rate at which we're spending and the dollars that are left to use. So again, ESSER 1 is wrapping up. Final slide, please. ESSER 1 is wrapping up. We'll be doing all of that reporting by the end of this month. ESSER 2 is available through next September, and then ESSER 3 will take us into September of 2024. And with that, I would answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mosier, for your presentation. Are there any questions?
Just to make
I've
sure.
got one.
All right, we'll go with Mr. Jordan first, and we'll go with you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Just to make sure, ESSER 1's period of performance is July 1 to September 3rd, so it's a 15-month deal, right?
That is correct, yes.
And it's the normal federal rule obligations where you have to obligate it by September 30th and liquidate it out by...
No, actually, it's obligating, please correct me,
obligated by June 30th.
And then liquidated by September 30th.
Correct. So
Got
that's
it.
our liquidation period.
And then the ESSER 2 looks like it follows the little longer, a little more normal periods.
It continues all the way till
It's got another
June
year.
30th of next year.
It has another year to make obligations and
That is correct.
liquidate it.
June 30th to 2023 is the obligation period for that one.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Mr. Brown, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Catherine, appreciate the presentation and the work. I understand that there are some, or perhaps many, local governments that are having some difficulty finding worthwhile uses for all of the ESSER funds. And they may not, some of them may not be able to use all the funds that were available, and I guess they'll simply go unused. Is there any sense that we are not going to be able to put all ESSER funds to good use?
No, I have no concern about that. In fact, what I believe ESSER has actually allowed us to do is to demonstrate what it costs to properly educate students in Columbus City Schools. Because we have been able to use ESSER in some categories and to help support some initiatives, we have actually been able to make more academic impact with our Title I dollars than we had previously. So every school in the district has a full-time instructional coach this year, paid out of ESSER. That means that about 30 schools in the district that previously never had an instructional coach because they couldn't afford it, because we typically fund those positions out of Title I, and they didn't have a population and a Title I allocation to support that work, now can move forward, improve instruction in classrooms, better meet the needs of students, because we are able to use ESSER for that position. So we are doubling down on interventions, and we have an intervention in reading paid for out of Title I in elementary schools. We have a very specific strategy around intervention for math in middle schools. We didn't forget the reading. We have a reading intervention also, but we could never afford a math intervention before because we had to use our Title I dollars to pay for instructional coaches and in professional development for teachers. And then at the high school, we have an opportunity to provide an intervention strategy around matriculation that we've wanted and needed, but could not provide before. If we did not have ESSER, we could not provide those additional intervention strategies. So no, I'm not concerned that we will not spend the dollars and that we will not spend them properly. What I think we will actually do is have the evidence to show that at the end of ESSER, we're going to need additional funding to support and meet the needs of students. Now, having said that, I do believe, and we've certainly committed to the initial part of this strategy all along, is that we should use this opportunity to leverage our ESSER dollars to address things that we never could use federal funds for before, such as HVAC and health and safety, remediating health and safety conditions in buildings. So no, I'm not worried that we're not going to spend the money and spend it properly. And in fact, if our community partners and organizations don't think they can spend it all, come talk to us because we are certainly interested in continuing to help find ways to align our partner strategies to our district goals and guardrails.
Thank you, Catherine. Are there any additional questions?
I appreciate that. Just one follow-up to that, and that is sort of the flip side, which is, are we keeping close track of the things that we are spending this one-time money on that we will have to carefully review at the end of the ESSER dollars to determine, I guess, what additional operating money is needed to continue some of those things we start? I'm guessing that a substantial or very substantial portion of the funds is going to one-time purchases or expenditures. But for those things that will continue, are we carefully tracking and planning for what happens when the ESSER dollars are no longer there?
Yes, Mr. Brown, I'm gonna jump in here and step on Catherine's toes, not intentionally here, but to answer your question, absolutely, we're tracking those, and we're conscious of the one-time expenditures, as well as which ones will continue. And conversations that I've been having between Catherine, myself, and Mr. Bahork, the treasurer, is yes, we're looking at how is this going to impact the 5-year forecast. So I'm going to steal some of Stan's thunder. Is he's going to start presenting that in the upcoming forecast as to start looking at some of those items that will roll over into the general fund, but after many conversations prior to that. So we are tracking that, we are looking at that, and we are very conscious of how that's going to impact the district well beyond ESSER.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Are there any additional questions or comments? All right. Given that there aren't any, thank you so much for this presentation. We look forward to what's more to come moving ahead.